lobby. Let's all go to the lobby, lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to Now Slaying, an It Slays podcast production where we break down the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I'm your not-so-humble host, Colton.
I'm Rowan.
And today on the show, we're joined by a very special guest, our foreign correspondent, Gillian Keats. Gill, say hello to the folks listening at home.
Hello. Thanks for having me again.
And thank you for coming. Today on the show, we're going to be reviewing A Wounded Fawn, which was released yesterday, I think, December 1st, 2022 on Shudder. Now, normally on Now Slaying, we kick things off with our anticipation for the movie we're reviewing. But had any of us even heard of this movie before yesterday? I mean, Rowan, you were the one who brought it to my attention.
Yeah, and I only heard of it yesterday while I was sitting at work, and I was scrolling through, like, my personal Instagram, and, like, I think 2 ads for it came up.
Okay.
And then I switched over to the It Slays, 2 totally separate ads came up, and then I'm like, what the fuck's this movie? And then I Googled it, and then I was like, oh, well, cool. Like, this looks kind of interesting. Up our alley.
So the targeted marketing got you, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for Instagram ads, I guess.
What about you, Jill? Have you even heard of this before?
Absolutely
Last night,
not.
or... No.
Yeah, I only heard because of you guys. So thank you, I guess.
Yeah, and I was the same way. I kind of looked at it. I saw like some reviews were calling it like an art house giallo movie, and I was like, why the fuck would I ever be interested in that? That is not up my alley remotely. But Rowan's been kind of crying behind the scenes about how we haven't been doing too many Now Slaying, so I figured I could squeeze this one in, amongst my busy work schedule, and I thought, hey, let's turn this on after, a 12 or 13-hour shift and barely stay awake through it.
I knew what you wanted.
Yeah, that was exactly what the doctor ordered. But I guess before we get into it too much, we'll just kick it over to the trailer, and then we'll come back with, do we recommend this thing?
You have very good taste in art.
Well, thank you. Do you work for a gallery or a private collector?
I have plans this weekend.
The mystery.
Yeah.
Mystery man.
That's right.
What mystery man?
I brought that record I was telling you about.
Oh, great. To art and beauty.
And the night ahead. Have you ever experienced anything weird here before?
I'm really looking forward to our time here together.
What you just heard is from A Wounded Fawn, directed by Travis Stevens and written by Travis Stevens and Nathan Fodry, and the story is as follows. A local museum curator who is dipping her toe back into the dating pool is targeted by a charming serial killer. When a fateful romantic getaway between the two becomes a tense game of cat and mouse, both must confront the madness within. Now, here on Now Slaying, we like to keep things relatively spoiler-free up front before getting into the more in-depth, spoiler-filled discussion. And, I guess there is some stuff you can spoil with this movie. I wasn't exactly shocked, but, Jill, what are your spoiler-free thoughts on A Wounded Fawn?
I really liked it. I was, really into it from the get-go. From the beginning, it just blended seamlessly into action that I was into the whole time. So there wasn't really a dull moment for me the entire time. I liked how cinematic it was, and it was kind of scratchy, and I think I read somewhere that it was filmed on film, which is cool. And I liked how it's really how do I say this? The whole movie is about art and stuff, and that shows through how cinematic it is. But yeah, I really liked it. How about you, Colton?
Yeah, the kind of the filmic aspect of it, I wasn't 100% sure if it was actually on film or if they just kind of put a really harsh film grain over it. So it's interesting to hear that it actually was on film. Because when I was watching it, this was one of those movies where I wasn't sure if it was produced with style at mind or if they put style in post. Rowan, you looked like you were going to say something there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I did read they shot this on 16 millimeter.
Okay. So it was intentional then, but as someone going in, it's one of those movies, like I said, I wasn't 100% sure. I'm familiar with the star, Josh Rubin. I've seen another movie, I think it was maybe he wrote and directed, called Scare Me.
Yeah.
Essentially him and one other actress just in a house, essentially telling scary stories for 90 minutes. And its performances are like very big and very excitative, and they're very much like look at me performances, I guess. So I was kind of like, I recognize this guy somewhere. And when I started the movie, I was like, oh, he's the guy that annoyed me so much in that other movie because he wrote and directed and cast himself as, you know, the main focus of this hour and a half long movie, right? So yeah, it's something that I don't know if I like thoroughly enjoyed it. But once again, it's one of those things where it's hard to kind of chalk that up. Like, is it the movie's fault or is it just I'm fucking tired? So I did find it kind of got a little bit slower after the initial, well, it's not the initial kill, but the second kill, the major quote unquote kill in the movie. And where it kind of got a little bit more ethereal and a little bit more out there. Some of the visuals were cool. I'll agree with Gill for sure. But I don't know if it all worked for me 100%. What about you, Rowan?
I definitely like the look of it. I will say I'm very interested. This is one that I feel with Shudder, they're usually pretty good at putting stuff that is semi-popular for them on like physical media. I think I'd be interested to see this on like a Blu-ray or a 4K, just because I think the 16 millimeter look would look better than over streaming, like over the internet. Because I did know, I noticed when I watched it, like just some pixelated stuff with the internet, and I was like, some of the darks and stuff that I was like,
yeah, the compression really makes it muddy when you have a film grain over it.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone knows I'm gonna bring up the music. The music slaps. I thought it was really. I thought the score was good. The songs they used was really good. I'm not like super hip in the indie pop world, but I know the first 15, like the first song they play, Exilia was in the room and she was like, hey, I know this song, it's on my playlist, and she's up with all the indie pop stuff. So I was like, oh, like I guess that's a good sign. But yeah, like I thought, like you, Colton, not everything worked for me. Like Gill, I recommend this if this is kind of your thing, like kind of weird. I don't know if I'm comfortable calling it an oddity, because I don't know if it's actually that weird as, the director wants you to think it is. But I think if you're a fan of like giallo and kind of that 16 millimeter look, I thought one of the better, I was looking at some of the reviews and someone said that this was if you took Fresh and just smashed it with Evil Dead 2, and they were like, that's kind of the look and feel of this film. I think if you're a fan of movies like Fresh that maybe have like some sort of twist or turn, or I don't know if this is as big of a twist and turn, but they attempt to do something very similar that I think you would definitely be a fan of it. And I could definitely see this in a little while, kind of becoming like a cult favorite.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of weird, though, and also, like, really funny. There are some parts I was laughing really hard, and I'm pretty sure it was intentionally funny. But I'll talk about that later because I don't want to spoil anything.
I was going to say, I will say, too, like, because it's not really touching spoiler territory, because I won't be super specific, but like one of my issues with it was kind of like the dialogue written for the women in it. Like I thought some of it was a little hacky, where I was just like, this is literally how women are written in every like man written movie. Like the kind of like the conversation in the beginning, like of the girls together, like talking about the date, and there's like
Yeah.
the vibrator comment
vibrators
and
how
stuff.
many batteries she goes through, and yeah.
It's a little cringe.
Yeah, and I mean like dialogue, and it's not even that it's like dialogue about a vibrator, like that can work, but it was just like the lines just like didn't go together, like the chemistry wasn't there in the dialogue to make it seem natural. It just really seemed that it was like, this is how women talk to each other.
In a perfect world, that's how women talk to each other. Send me pictures when you make love. That's a spoil. I'm sorry. I can't talk.
Well, I'd kind of give it a soft recommendation as well. But, like, once again, on this one, I'm going to say just, like, discount my opinion. You know, Gill and Rowan paid far more attention to this movie than I did as I, you know, kind of sleepily watched it and after a long day. But, yeah, soft recommendation for me. Some of what I saw was interesting. It is worthy of like your full attention if you were to watch it. You know, it does do some weird things and some of the like little twists and turns and the reveals. It did surprise me at points. So like once again, like it probably was better than what I watched last night. But yeah, I guess with that, we'll just cut to the spoiler discussion. Yeah, so who wants to go first? Our spoiler-filled thoughts on... God, what is this movie called again? A Wounded Fawn. Before the recording, I just could not remember the name, and I just still can't remember the name of it. So I think, Jill, you kind of said there were some things you wanted to spoil. How about you go ahead first? Lead the discussion. Where are we going?
Okay. So I wrote some notes that it's not very long. I didn't write very many notes, but my first note was kind of like the motif of the color red. It's all over the place. My favorite one, and this is like when I really picked up on it, was when they're they're driving out into the woods.
They're technically moving.
I guess they're technically moving. Anyways, and there's like those red flags that are like floating in the wind. And I was like, that's really nice because it's a red flag that this guy won't stop for her to get snacks, first of all, or use the bathroom. And he's like, oh, we'll be there soon. And then, like, it cuts to the next shot and it's dark. Like, he fucking lied.
She's definitely
so that's red flag
her
number
pants.
1. Yeah, for real. And, like, it's a long time before she gets to use the bathroom. So, yeah, red flag. I thought that was really cute in a way, I guess. Very literal. And then the color red goes throughout the whole movie. So we have that red owl thing that this guy is like hallucinating or whatever. That red door on the cabin, the red light surrounding the red owl, the wine. And he also makes a comment when she's like, it's going to be white wine or red wine. He's like, it's going to be red wine. And the pomegranate, which looks super bloody. The red bracelet on his arm, I don't know if that's supposed to symbolize something. Her lingerie turns out to be red. And yeah, I thought that was all really cool. One of my favorite lines was this guy. He says a lot of funny things because he's pretty unhinged, but he's like, I'm a basker. I'm basking in the sunshine. And I really liked the end credits that just went on forever and ever of this guy just like
that was
stabbing
good.
himself.
Yeah.
It was so good. And she's just staying there watching it. That was great. What was I talking about spoiling? I don't remember.
I don't know. I just said for you to lead the discussion. But one thing there that I definitely noticed, I never made very many notes either, but I also made a note of that she didn't have to go that bad because we cut, like you said, from day to night to show like, oh my God, she's been holding her piss for a long time. And then she just shows up at the cabin. There isn't like a rush to like the porta potty or a rush into the bathroom or anything. It's just a forgotten plot beat. And I was like, man, oh man, sloppy screenwriting.
I'm loving the zag. Half of the cast is like, oh, she should be able to pee, and Colton's like, she should fucking hold it. She didn't have to go that bad. I'm loving it.
This guy,
that is not what I meant. I meant the movie forgot about the fact that the character needed to go take a piss. And I mean,
I was more mad about the snacks. Like, if your date isn't gonna stop to get you snacks before you go into a cabin in the woods, There's no cabin chips. I don't want it. Just get out of your car and leave.
I'm not going on a date if you're not snacking, so...
Yeah, you gotta get the chips, man. And just to throw back to Ginger Snaps too, when they do go to a cabin, they stop and get bags of chips, and they're snacking on it throughout the whole movie. So, like, they go together.
So I'm kind of curious, because, you know, we know that Jill's, like, newly diving into the world of horror. Is this, like, your first Giallo-adjacent movie? Like, have you watched a Giallo movie yet?
No. So, yeah.
So, just because I noticed, like, you were picking up on all the red, and, like, that's just, like, the overall themes, like, reds and yellows, and like, the style of this. So, yeah, it'll be interesting when we, you know, on the full cast, do some Giallo reviews.
Cool.
Because you'll
just
like
please don't make me watch Malignant again, for God's sake.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's not very Giallo. So, but, yeah, no. And I think with the reds, like what you're talking about, not just kind of the cool subtext to it and all these, like, red flags and stuff, but the movie just looks gorgeous. Like, the 16 millimeter, like, really makes the red, like, pop. Or I should say pop. It's not, you know, it's not like Technicolor, but it just looks good. I don't know what you want to call it. You're the technical guy, Colton, but like the staging, just how everything, like the shots looked, the cinematography. I feel, and you kind of brought this up, Colton, I feel like I'm going to have to watch this a couple times, because I feel like I definitely missed things or will find other things. Because one of the things I noticed was the giant painting that's in his cottage that he obviously took from the first woman he kill's house.
Yeah.
That when we kind of get into the madness, when he walks by the painting, the colors actually are different than they are when they show up to the cottage. Where on, like, the right side of the painting, there's, like, blue swishes. And then when we're in the madness and, you know, he's been bludgeoned on the head and stuff, when he walks by it, all those swishes are red now and they're not blue. And they've, like, totally changed the color scheme of it's still the same picture, but the colors are different. It was just, like, little things like that I was like, oh, I noticed that, but I was like, there's probably tons of stuff.
There was another one, too. I noticed it as well. And it probably has to do with the fact that this guy is, like, you know, fully within this madness, and he's taking things from like the art around him and the things that happened to him in his past and such. So when Meredith is, like, on the toilet in the bathroom, I think she sees a painting. It's like eyes. And when they're, like, fully in the madness later, the owl thing and the two other women, one of them is holding something, I think it's a shirt, and it has those eyes on it.
Yeah, I did notice that one. Yeah. It's interesting that you like the visual style so much of this movie, because when I was watching, like, once again, I didn't know if it was an afterthought. Like, you know, a movie that does something similar is House of the Devil by Ty West, and that one was just, like, so unmistakably, like, I knew this was, like, what he was going for. Like, it felt like a movie from the 70s. This movie, like, didn't really feel like a movie from the 70s to me. Like, obviously she uses, like, her cell phone and stuff in the movie. It's set in the modern day. It's just it's just they put these stylistic trappings on it, and then, like, some of the low budget aspects of it, you know, like, such as when the head goes away at the end and there's little, like, red eyes, you know, like this, it's like weird little creature effects that I was like, okay, see that, like, I'm wondering if the style comes from, like, financial constraints and, like, the inability to, like, execute at, like, a level of, like, what we would want that sort of effect to look like by modern horror standards, or if, like, once again, that was always the plan, always to make it, like, low budget. Like, there's another movie called, like, The Love Witch that does a very similar thing where it looks like an old-timey movie with all the cinematography, and they shot it on film and whatnot. This one, to me, I actually didn't really notice the cinematography too much. I found a lot of the lighting seemed, like, really flat, and specifically in the beginning of the movie, I remember basically being like, oh, there's obviously a blue light positioned right out this guy's window, just blowing, like, blue light onto half of his face, or, like, stuff like that. It was just, I don't know, I guess it didn't do too much for me. I did like the latter, like, surreal parts of the movie a little bit more, but it wasn't, like, something that grabbed me, I guess.
I like that you notice those things, like being, like the tech guy. Those are things I would never notice. That's cool. Whether it was intentional or not. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, it's also just something I notice, like, more and more, like, when I'm on set now, I see, like, how much effort goes into just getting the proper lighting and how many, like, ways they have to shape the light in different ways, or, like, oh, they're putting this weird, like, fishnet contraption on the light. What does this do? It's just...
Right.
It's just, I guess you kind of see it a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, it's also like subjective as well. Like, it doesn't, I didn't like it very much, but you guys were both struck by it. So
yeah, I thought there was like a really cool juxtaposition between, I thought, especially in the beginning, going into the First Lady's house, I forget her name, is it Kate or something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Her house is like really modern. These people are all like art curators and such. So they have these like fancy lifestyles, and they have like all these nice pieces of art in their home. So everything seems like really glossy and modern. I like that, like the kind of gritty like film look was like overlaid onto that. So it was like a cool juxtaposition between the two. So that's something that I liked.
Yeah, I can see that. There's a contrast there for sure. Did the Greek mythology aspect, did that do anything for you two? I mean, I have a knowledge of Greek mythology, but once again, like, it was kind of said so quickly in the beginning. Like, it was like some of the first lines of the movie, right? Did any of that catch your attention or add anything?
Yeah, I know a limited amount of Greek mythology.
I know
but,
zero.
Okay. Then the term that they use, I wasn't quite familiar with, but I am familiar with like the Furies, and I think it's like the same thing. So I thought that was cool, and I liked how that played into the whole plot. So like the women that he killed ended up, coming back as like the Furies, who are exacting revenge on men, and that's kind of what they do. So it's cool to see whether this guy's like fucking crazy, or is it like really power from this artifact that he stole. I don't know. Could be a mixture, but I really liked it. I like the snakes. I'm pretty sure one of the Furies, that's like they have like snakes in their hair and stuff, kind of like Medusa-esque. And another one, I think, the one that turned into like a hound.
Yeah.
And was like chasing. Yeah. I think that's another aspect of one of the Furies. But I also noticed that dog in the beginning of the movie. Remember when she's getting picked up by Bruce for the car? There's like a hound that runs out. And like maybe that was a warning or something, but then one of the other Furies also like changes into a hound and like runs after him when he's fully insane in the forest.
With the woman's face, I clapped for that.
The woman's face?
Yeah, when he's running through the woods and the hound, they do a quick shot and they've just like poorly
superimpose the woman's
face over the dog's face.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And yeah, I can't believe, I know nothing about Greek mythology. I felt like as I watched it, I was like, maybe I should have listened more attentively at the beginning when they were explaining the stuff.
Yeah.
Me too. I wanted to go back and rewatch that bit, actually.
Yeah, like I didn't even know they were called the Furies. More like the furries,
That's
am I right? Or...
Right.
But like the owl thing, like I was entranced with the owl. I like it for the kill with Cade and the red door and the music, and I was just like, in my glory. I was like, "Fuck, this is awesome!" And
it was.
And the Act 1 coming up, I was like, awesome. But like, then I found like the tree guy. Are they all women or?
They're all women.
They're all women. Like the tree woman. Like I was like, man, this really doesn't look as good as the owl thing. And then like I get, it was cool about like I did like the look of the Medusa type one. I mean, the dog one was whatever, because it was just Kate, essentially, and then,
Listen, Kate did a great job.
I'm not saying Kate didn't do a great job, but
she was so good.
The owl, I thought, was the coolest looking thing in it. And
I agree, yeah.
And then I was like, I didn't really get a lot of the owl, so I was kind of, like, disappointed that I just kind of got these, these Big 8 versions, so... I will say, like, in terms of like pacing for this, I found I was far more a fan of, I think, the first half than I was the second half. As frantic as the second half was, I felt, I don't know, maybe it wasn't pacing's not the word, but like, I just felt there was something like off about it. Like, cause I can, I think most of us, like, I know me and Colton for sure, like, we're fans of like slow burn movies and things that kind of command your attention, and then it really takes this flip into like all insanity. But I just felt it was really disjointed from the first half, where I was like, I'm not even sure these should be in the same movie. I just felt it was such a tonal shift, and I think because of how much we see the Furies, I was like, as much as I want to see more of the Owl guy, like when you use them sparingly, it's like there's a mystique about it, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And he's showing up in a doorway, and then he's gone. And where this is just like, hey, we're just gonna give you these Furies for like a half hour straight, to where I'm like, all right, man, like, I've seen them. Right. Yeah, and then I also, kind of like I said at the beginning in the spoiler-free section, like, I thought some of the Furies' dialogue was pretty shitty.
I think they were actually, like, speaking, maybe as something from, like, a play.
Yeah.
Like, the dialogue.
Yeah.
It seems like it has bigger meaning to it.
It was very stilted, yeah, for sure. So I would say it's probably quoting something or taken from some sort of Greek mythological text or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I get what you're saying, Rowan. It's kind of like once the movie dips into the zaniness, it kind of just has that tone for the rest of the movie until finally the movie breaks it and shows you like, oh, okay, she's alive. She has duct tape around her neck and he's just stabbing himself to death, type of thing,
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and I think it's because I felt like maybe I was tricked. My expectations is I was expecting this fully kind of art house surrealist movie, and then I was just I felt that second half. I was like, this doesn't really seem art house or surrealist. It just kind of seems like a low budget, like, horror monster flick type thing.
Damn, that's rough criticism. I liked it, and I thought when they put it into 3 parts, okay, and they clearly mark each part, that's the tonal shift. That's the shift you should expect. And then they're doing a lot with Greek mythology, so I feel like maybe that's lost on us if we don't know that much about it. But I feel like there's a lot of, like, there's a lot of deeper meaning there, and maybe it's lost on us, but I think it is kind of an art house type of movie.
I will say, I did like the scene Colton was talking about, which I feel like you were talking about with some disdain, of when they cut the owl's head off, and it was like whatever the fuck that was, like the throbbing eyes. I did like
that was so funny.
I did like the look. I laughed. It gave me brain damage vibes, like just kind of low budget funny horror.
Yeah, it's not necessarily disdain, but it's like it's where the movie, I obviously realized, like, at this point it's like a choice, or like it's the budgetary constraints, like literally like looking at me when I'm watching it, right? It winds up basically being, for me, it's like, okay, was it always meant to look cheap and shitty the entire movie, or like cheap and silly, or was it just kind of prompts, was it all meant to look this way, or was it supposed to look good at a certain point? Was it always meant to look like it was from 70s, made with severe budgetary constraints? Because there's parts in the movies where I think they are trying to make it look quote unquote good or sleek or modern, or however you want to say it. And then that's very much like, obviously when you have that effect in a movie, it doesn't hold up. That effect wouldn't be in like a Marvel movie or something, it's not a modern visual effect, right? It's like what you said, it's something from like Brain Damage or something. I didn't mind it either, but it was kind of like, I was like, oh, that's a silly little guy. That's kind of my thought, when I saw it, it didn't like drag me out of it or wow me or anything. I was wondering what the deeper meaning of, the wood stove, the pipe attacking the wood stove.
That was so good.
I was watching that, just cracking up laughing.
I actually have a theory about that.
Okay, let's hear it.
I wonder if that's Was that the Fury with the snakes? Because it kind of turned into a snake, like the pipe of the stove.
So it wasn't. That was the dog Fury
Ah, fuck. Never mind.
that was
No.
sitting on
That's out the
it.
window. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was the dog Fury. Yeah, okay. Well,
I thought it was silly, but I did like it. You know, it kind
that was like my favorite part, actually.
Yeah,
I love
it was good. I made a note of it. I made like 6 notes for this movie, and that's one of them. So I also have the owl god sacrifice is dope, which it is. It was cool. It was near the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
So
Like I said, I would put this up there with like one of the stronger opening sequences in a horror movie I think we've ever done on the show. Like up until it says Act 1, I really I was really into that whole kill and the owl sacrifice and everything about it. Like I thought it was super strong. And like just super weird. Maybe that's why I liked it, because it was just odd.
for me on the show, I instantly, for like strong opening, I go to like Nope from Jordan Peele this year. It was pretty sick.
Yeah.
But
Leprechaun 2, yeah, I agree.
Oh my god.
and then also for me, it was just like you mentioned Fresh in the spoiler free discussion, and that's kind of what it felt like to me too. I was like, okay, this is a worst actor bringing a lesser known actress to a cabin. And obviously he's off and has like a slightly more boring. Well, I guess cannibalism probably is more boring than where this movie goes, but it's just the execution in Fresh is like so impeccable. Like when the rug is pulled out from under you, it's like 30 minutes or 40 minutes of like this slow burn to get you up to that point. Whereas this was like, this blows its wad in like the first 5 minutes. Like, what the movie is, right? Like, he's a killer, like this woman's quote unquote going to be killed. Like, that's the point of her going there. It wasn't like a surprise, right? So it's not like you're not falling in love with the Josh Rubin character as you're watching it. It's like you already know he's a creep and a killer, and it's just different, I guess. But it was giving me vibes of Fresh, and I was like, I wish this was Fresh but surrealist, and it was just kind of, I don't know, it had some admiral qualities, but yeah, just not the same. I prefer Fresh.
I gotcha.
I did think she was dead till she hit him. I was like, because I was kind of like,
same.
I even paused it to see how much time was left on it, because I'm like, whoa, because I did have the expectation. I'm like, all right, he's gonna like try to attack her with those things, and then like she's gonna, he's gonna miss or something, and then when like he did get her with it, and I was like, oh shit, like I was like, maybe there's gonna be like another woman or something, and we've kind of been tricked that this is the lead. And then that did surprise me. I guess I'm just I'm a normie.
No, it surprised me. It surprised me as well, but like it surprised me in a bad way, where I was like, well, how did she survive that wound? Type of thing.
Yeah.
Right. And then at the end of the movie, it's like, oh, she put duct tape around it. I was like, okay, well, when did that happen? Like,
Yeah.
I did
right?
really like the weapon. I thought the weapon was kind
Yeah,
of
was
cool.
really
it was
cool.
unique. Yeah. Yeah. It is
Like-
like Wolverine claws.
Yeah. One of the kind of like real important questions that I was thinking when I was watching it is that if you jizz in your sink, wouldn't you want like soap and stuff afterwards? Like I feel like he just sprayed it with water, and then like you're gonna put dishes in there and stuff later. It's kind of weird, and it's all over your dishes.
I have a question about that. I don't know.
Do we want
what-
to know the question?
Yes. There's at one point after he like doesn't kill Meredith, but we assume she's dead, where he goes and jerks off in the sink. And then later there's like a sequence of like, the pomegranate juice, and you can see the blood in the sink that he washed off, but there's no jizz. Was that before or after? But I don't know, but there was no jizz in that sink.
Maybe he didn't finish.
Oh yeah, maybe.
You know what? True. Oh, okay. All right.
Speaking of finishing, was there anything else we wanted to discuss before we get into rating this thing?
Yeah. So I have to bring up the feminist factor here.
I thought you were gonna say about that jizz again.
Just
No.
belaboring the point.
I think the best part of the movie is the fact that Meredith is able to kind of stop this cycle, and she's super strong, and I like that she uses the sculpture or whatever it is, or a statue, as a weapon to kind of like hurt him and stuff. And it's really badass that she kind of plays into like his hallucinations and stuff at the end by like wearing that tarp, and he's seeing like someone in a green dress And like, I guess maybe that's him seeing her. But it's really cool that she just kind of like holds her own and she doesn't run away. She actually like makes him die. And it's really empowering for her to be standing over him while he like ends himself. So yeah, I thought that was cool.
It was a super strong ending, I thought. Like,
Agreed. Yeah.
as much as I was like, oh, this dialogue and blah, 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 like, the super simple dialogue at the end after we've been, like, inundated this whole movie with, you know, like we said, whether it's quotes from some play we don't know, or I kept thinking, I was like, maybe this has something more to do with Greek mythology. It's like quotes or something. But I love the fact that it ended on just like so bluntly and plainly. And it's just like, no, you're just fucking pathetic. Like, it just made him seem so inadequate and just so, it's like, he's just garbage. There's nothing special about this other than he just murders women.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I like the prosthetics, especially when his eye is like kind of hanging off and it's like really swollen and stuff.
Yeah.
I think they did a really good job there. That was cool.
There hasn't been such a great scene of picking your brain out since Hannibal, so.
Yeah, is that what that was? Because I was curious.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that was like the swollen part of his brain kind of telling you like why he was like hallucinating or what he was seeing. I don't know. I think it was like partially explaining it a little bit.
Okay.
That's
So,
all I.
Yeah. That's it? That's all you want to say?
Yeah.
All right. So if you're new to the podcast, our review rubric is nay, okay, yay, or slay. So, Jill, how about we start with you? What would you give A Wounded Fawn?
Pressure.
I would give A Wounded Fawn a slay. And I think
Oh
it's
my
one of
God.
What? Why are you
The
laughing?
first time on the podcast, now slaying, you give it a slay. Wow. Okay.
I mean, I'm easy to please, and you guys know what I like. Anything kind of like artsy and like has, you know, some meaning and feminist, I'll eat that shit up. So this is probably one of my favorite things on Shudder right now. So good job.
Holy shit.
Slay.
All right.
Are we
I wish
surprised?
I wish I had a screen cap of Rowan leaned back in his chair clapping. I wish we were recording these just for that moment. What about you, Rowan? What would you give it?
So, I mean, I can't judge too much. I'm going to give it a pretty strong yay. I actually really, really did enjoy it. There was, you know, like I said, there was issues I had with it. But, you know, I don't know if it was kind of like the creep up of a movie that, you know, 24 hours ago I had no idea existed. And then I just really had like fun with it and enjoyed what I saw. But I've got to give a yay because, I mean, like I said, I think I'm probably going to watch this a couple more times, see what I can pull out of it. And if anything, like I said, the music slaps. The composer is like Vaal. I don't know how you say it. It's like Vaal, which I found out they actually like are on Letterboxd also because they wrote a review for the movie.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, like that slap, like, you know, just the normal music, like the songs they chose, I thought were really good. And yeah, I had a pretty enjoyable time with it, even the issues I had with it. I thought it was good, and I think, yeah, I'd probably show this to people that, you know, enjoy that art house aesthetic. What about you, Colton?
Yeah, I do agree that it's something that I will watch again. Obviously, when you messaged me at like whatever it was, 10:30 at night, you're like, hey, let's review this tomorrow. It is a little bit of an obligation for me to be like, okay, all right, let's throw this thing on. And then once again, the work aspect. I don't have a lot of free time right now, so I'm always tired. So I don't know if I gave it a fair shake. Josh Rubin also, he just annoys me. I'm just honest. Everything I've seen him in, I think he was in that Werewolves Within movie or Werewolves. It might be just whatever it is. And then there's the Scare Me movie. He just kind of annoys me. I think in this movie he's supposed to be annoying and kind of a jerk, obviously, and you're not supposed to like him, but you're also spending an awful lot of time with someone you don't like. So there's a little bit of that. Like I said, the style overall didn't work for me because I don't know if it was 100% intentional or if it was a limitation or a restriction when I was watching it. But once again, that's a me problem. On a rewatch, I would come into it knowing that. So I'm going to give it an okay. Honestly, it's something that if I had more time and I watched it fully awake, it might be a yay. I'm willing to admit that. But yeah, from what I saw, some pacing issues there in the second act and whatnot that kind of held it back a little bit for me, made me even more sleepy. So yeah, an okay from me. Yeah, and if you made it this far into the podcast, and if you're not following us already, please be sure to do so at It Slays Podcast. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Letterboxd and Slasher and I don't know, probably a few other things. If it's a social media that you could follow us at, we'll probably be on there at It Slays Podcast. And Rowan, go ahead and plug the playlist.
Yeah, so I'll definitely try to add some music from this onto the playlist tonight. But the It Slays Podcast horrific playlist on Spotify, you can search it up or go to any of the social media. It's in our Linktree link. And I'll put music from this up. There's music from all the other movies that we reviewed, if it has good music. We do have some bad music on there. There's definitely some Sweeney Todd on there. But yeah, we're always updating it and, get your spooky music on because it's Christmas and no one likes Christmas. They prefer Halloween. So keep the Halloween vibes going.
And next time on the show, I don't know what we're going to be doing. It's been a while since we've done one of these anyways. And as I've been saying, I've been working a lot, but I'm hoping to have a lot more free time in about 2 weeks' time, right around the Christmas season. So going into the new year, and usually in January, there's a bunch of bad horror movie releases.
Megan's coming.
Megan? All right.
January 6th.
Oh, no. That might be a way to kick off the new year, I guess. But yeah, Rowan's also expressed interest in doing some more Shudder original movies. So yeah, if there's another one of these that kind of springs up and we have the time to do so, we'll definitely give it a review. And yeah, Gill, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And I think you're on probably our next episode coming out anyways, the 30 Days of Night on the main show. So we'll hear more from you then. But yeah, with that, I think that basically wraps things up this week. So until next time, I'm Colton.
I'm Rowan.
And as long as you keep listening, we'll keep slaying.